Once again, MangaMatt here with the April manga update. So let's get right in. First up, Master Keaton Volume 2, which I enjoyed this a lot. I really love this series. It's got a very dry kind of pacing, but it's a good kind of dry. You'd expect it from a series like this, where a lot of times Master Keaton is sort of following these very mundane sort of insurance claims, but then slowly finds out that there's more going on. Specifically, the first story that features what initially is kind of a urban legend of people getting killed by what they think are werewolves, and then slowly finding out that it's caused by an outbreak of rabies. But then an added twist is that all of the women that have been getting outbreaks of rabies all happen to look very similar, and they all seem to have married the same guy. So now it becomes a possible serial killer case that Master Keaton is trying to track down. So a lot of the stories here, they always go in these different kind of tangents, and then even better is a lot of the times they go in these very small kind of directions. Like, for instance, there's a story near the end where Master Keaton is sitting down with a girl whose mom, whose dad died, and her mom has decided to remarry, and he's sort of looking after her and trying to make her feel better about it, and also kind of talking about, I guess, to an extent, his own failed marriage. But it's very, and especially I like the last two stories here. One featuring a colleague of Master Keaton who also had a failed marriage because he got too obsessed with his job, and then also a small little aside with a woman that falls in love with Master Keaton and actually herself gets into some trouble. They're all just Master Keaton's such a great character that he's got such an emotional range to him, because he's professionally very competent, but personality and people-wise, he's kind of naive about what's going on around him most of the times. Like, he can read people when it comes to something like, are they going to kill me? What's their next move they're planning? Strategic military combat. But when it comes to like people's feelings, he's never quite good enough to piece it together. And it's just, and instead he himself comes out very genuine. So I absolutely love this, and I'm already committed to whatever else they bring out of that series. Then Real, Volume 13. It's been a long time since I've read a volume of Real, so I was initially kind of worried about falling in and starting up again where I left off. Thankfully, though, this entire volume focuses on a rather minor character up to this point, who is Scorpion Shiratori. He's kind of this wrestler, and he's in rehab with the other guys featured on the back, because I guess he suffered some kind of a spine injury, and his whole lower body below the waist became paralyzed, and he's in physical rehab to try and relearn how to walk. And throughout the series, when he was introduced, he's been trying to like really push his rehab, his PT, so that he can make it to this one big wrestling match. And he was always saying, "Oh, I'll get better in no time. I'll get better in no time." But he he seemed to have a real struggle trying to make progress. Which, of course, PT, everybody goes at their own pace. There's nothing like you should be here at this point kind of thing. But it really kind of was struggling for him, and this whole volume just focuses on Scorpion, his backstory, and also how he actually pulls off his big wrestling match despite his limitations with the use of his legs, and the way that he pulls it off is just absolutely great. If you were ever a big fan of wrestling, like WCW or anything like that, you know, where you have these bigger than life characters, the good guys are great, but the villains are absolutely amazing. This is definitely like that, and there's also some great facial features. It just reminds me of how much I love Takehiko Inoue when he's doing anything that's very action oriented, like Vagabond and Slam Dunk. With something like Real, you don't really get much of an opportunity to see a lot of dynamic action, but this volume definitely delivers on that. It's a great sort of almost standalone volume, just focusing on this one character. Then One Piece, Volume 74. This was absolutely great. The volumes leading up to this were kind of like, lackluster, okay, getting a little better. This one, full blown awesome every way through. They're finally enacting their Operation SOP. Usopp and the gang are trying to get to the girl to get her to undo the spell thing, and Frankie is causing as big of a commotion as he can as a distraction. You have a great backstory with the Tin Soldier and sort of what's going on with him. You finally get a good explanation as to how one of the Devil Fruit Powers people, their ability is working with turning people into toys and then making them enact a contract that makes them obedient, and especially the ending of this volume, where you think the whole mission has gone completely wrong, and there's no saving it, and then the most unexpected thing happens, and everything's back on track, and it's such a great reveal how it happens. And it's just one of those perfect moments in a story. Really love it. Knights of Sidonia, Volume 13. This features a lot of interesting dynamics, especially with the Gauss hybrids, specifically the Gauss hybrids. Specifically, the one featured here. I forget her name, but her and the other hybrid, the second hybrid that they were working on with the big particle cannon, which they deemed was too dangerous to keep it active and put it in commission. There's just a lot of great sort of dynamic moments with the two of them. Again, this is kind of one of those, I read it a little too far early in the month. I can't remember exact details about it, but there was a lot of moments that felt reminiscent of like Nausicaa, the Valley of the Wind, and how the god creatures had sort of a sentience of their own, and they're kind of misunderstood. It was kind of a neat moment like that in there with the Gauss hybrid creatures. And then Seven Deadly Sins, Volume 7, which concludes the big tournament fight with Meliodas and the gang, and also specifically them, specifically Meliodas, really unleashing a lot of his hidden power as the Dragon Sin of Wrath. Still trying to remember exactly what. There was just a lot of fighting in this one, so it's hard for me to remember specifics. Oh yeah. Also, at the end of this volume, we get the reveal of yet another deadly sin that's shown up in the series now. Specifically, what's their name? The sin of the goat sin of lust. Sorry about that. Specifically, the goat sin of lust, which that'll be interesting to see more of the seven deadly sins, and actually whether or not the ones they mentioned that were dead are actually dead in that series. Then new Lone Wolf and Cub, Volume 4, which this one, oh boy, another one I read a little too far back. Specifically, there were a lot of great moments, especially with Shigekata focusing on his training with Daigoro, specifically in the Jinryu sword technique, and especially there's a lot of interesting moments here, specifically with one guy who's been able to develop a new kind of firearm, which I guess these are more kind of like it's built kind of like, I guess, a shotgun. It's just this very small portable weapon that has these 7 barrels in it, and I guess it can do a lot of damage, which I guess is a pretty, for the time period, that's almost the powers of a god, having a highly advanced kind of firearm like that. I don't know, there's not really a lot of specifics as to exactly, they don't really show what kind of range it has, or especially how many uses it has before you have to reload it. They just kind of show him firing it over and over again, which I don't really know what the mechanism is for firing something like that. But in any case, it is still a pretty cool storyline featuring a new kind of weapon they're using. But yeah, it's Lone Wolf and Cub still top of the line stuff for me. Yeah. Then Prophecy Volume 3, which concludes the Prophecy manga series. I really like the conclusion of this story, specifically how they tie up why the Paperboy people were doing what they were doing, and it makes sense. It didn't feel like they were going over the top, trying to make some kind of big sort of philosophical message about something or anything like that. They were out for a very precise reason, and what they did to attract the right kind of law enforcement to do it was very clever. I like the way this ended. And again, this is only 3 volumes long. I highly recommend getting it if you like crime drama and you don't want like a really long, dragged out kind of story. Okay, volume 33 of Air Gear, which again features a lot more over the top action. Really loved seeing a lot of the minor characters all kind of show up and have a big fight, specifically with I think his name is Kaze, the new Flame Road Keeper, and actually his fight with what's his name? I think it was Sora, the Stone Keeper regalia. That was where the standout stuff, especially just how ridiculously overpowered he is. Like, he explained that he had his shoulder blades surgically removed so that his arms could reach completely around himself and punch someone directly behind him. It's just so ridiculous, and just between the two of between Kaze and the Eon Clock guy, the two of them fighting is just the most knockdown, drag out fight I've ever seen in this series anyway. a lot of great action and just out of control, crazy scenes, and I especially always like how he does a lot of mechanical sort of drawings and designs. He always makes the dynamic poses even more dynamic with a lot of crazy artwork in the background. It's still really fun, really great series. And then Wolfsmund, Volume 6, which we finally see what's happened now that Wolfram has been captured. And oh man, they pull no punches. This is probably one of the most satisfying endings to a villain I've ever seen. Like, the way he gets what's coming to him is just so good. I almost wonder like where they can go with this series now. I mean, everything was hinging on just how despicable and hateful that Wolfram was. That now that he's gone and out of the picture, what's really left for the series? It was actually that good. Well, I guess they're focusing more on, like, I guess the historical aspect of it, specifically with the I don't know the specifics, but I know there was something about like the uniting of Switzerland. This is all supposedly focusing on. But I don't know. It seemed like he was such a great villain that seeing him go, I don't know how you can even try and top that. It's just I thought he was gonna like carry on longer in the series, the way he was. And next, Blade of the Immortal, Volume 31, the final volume of Blade of the Immortal. Great ending. Though I didn't quite get the climactic final showdown between Ahoge Kageisa and Manji that I wanted, but the story-wise, it was a good ending. It leaves it open somewhat for a continuation, but you know, with everything that's happened in this series, unless he can really come up with something good, I think that where Blade of the Immortal has ended with this is really just as good as anything could ever get. Then, let's see, next up, What Did You Eat Yesterday, Volume 5 and 6. I had Volume 5 for a while, but I was just kind of sitting on it, and then I got Volume 6, and I was like, well, I better catch up on these. Both great. I really loved all the little food things in here. Had some great little recipes, especially at the end of Volume 5, where there's a bit of smudge on here, where you get a nice little recipe for a banana pound cake, which looked absolutely delicious in here. And then also I think in here we had some corned beef. Where was it? We had some delicious, some corned beef on toast was also looked delicious. Just some great food all through this story. I can't for the life of me figure out where the corned beef on toast was, but it was a great kind of spread meal, and I really love that. And especially I can't wait for next volume that features spinach lasagna and fried chicken. You know, love spinach lasagna. So definitely, if you're a big food nut and you also want a bit of light drama with your stories to kind of carry it through, this is a great series for that. It also actually brought up a few interesting thoughts concerning like how gay couples might feel about each other, specifically when they start meeting other gay couples. One of the Kenji was talking with Shiro in here about specifically he they had just met another gay couple, and Kenji was kind of telling Shiro to absolutely not see the guy unless they're both together, because he felt like he's worried he might go and cheat on him. And of course Shiro's telling him, of course I wouldn't, but he's saying, well, you know, there's not that many gay guys around, and you know, if something did happen, then you would obviously go to him next, since you don't have, you know, the entire scope of the whole population. You know, saying basically that because there's so few gay people, that you really get that any of them really know that the chances of leaving someone for someone else they know very closely is sort of a higher chance of that happening, at least the way he's saying it. And you know, it makes a bit of sense from that perspective. So it was also an interesting kind of a lot of interesting things brought up with that I wasn't expecting. Then next up we have Kindaichi Case Files, volumes 2 and 3, with The Mummy's Curse and Death TV. Both of these excellent. They are thicker than the Case Closed storylines, which again, the Case Closed storylines usually per volume there's maybe 2 mysteries going on, maybe 3. He can maybe sneak like a really short one in, but here every volume is exactly one mystery. The whole gambit is just one mystery, and it does present a lot of interesting things that you can do with a thicker story. Like there's a lot more red herrings, and the way it develops can be a lot more intricate. They're not necessarily stretching it out there. They're enticing it more with a lot more suspense and different ways that the story can go. Death TV felt a little bit. I kind of guessed who the killer was in that, but I didn't necessarily piece together the whys. So at least there was still something to look forward to in that, and also the way that they got away with it was that they did the act was a pretty neat and interesting idea. And speaking of killers, we get MPD Psycho, Volume 9, 10, and 11, with 9 and 10 really being kind of as far as the series has gone so far. Volume 11 is actually a prequel to the events of MPD Psycho. Everything happening in here actually happened before the series even starts proper. I like this series, but I'm definitely going to have to reread it, because there's a lot of little things that always keep coming up. It really goes in a lot of different directions, and you really have to get into the series and read it in one big piece to try and take it in. It's not an easy to dive in kind of series. If you're really going to try and understand it, you really have to really put in the hours to kind of understand what's going on in the minutia of it. But it's still got great artwork and some very disturbing kind of kills and deaths in it. Next up, let's see, a new series I recently got, and I absolutely love this series, by the way, after reading it. Goku The Midnight Eye, volumes 1 through 3. This is all that came out. I'm not entirely sure if this is all that was ever made, but at least it doesn't leave on any kind of cliffhanger. Essentially what this is you have a guy named Goku, not that Goku. He used to work for the police, but now he's a private detective, and he I don't know, something happens. He gets into some kind of accident, and what happens then is Goku's right eye gets taken out and replaced with this. Someone finds him and does some kind of implant work on him and actually puts this cybernetic eye into him that allows him to access. It's like a remote terminal that allows him to access any computers on the planet, and throughout the series he uses it to access databases on various peoples. He can use it to unlock electronic locks or turn on different kinds of machines or to hack into certain files, and then also he has this cool telescopic laser rod that he can either beat you with, or he can just shoot you through the chest with it. There's some pretty cool. There's an absolutely cool sort of villains in here, all the way from indestructible cyborgs to samurais with to samurai robots with chainsaw swords to alluring kind of femme fatale women that can turn into dinosaur creatures, and people riding on mechanical dogs with guns for heads. Just all kinds of weird sci-fi imagery that's just completely over the top. That would be the best way to really sell this series. Is it's absolutely over the top. There's over the top action, and there's some really very. It's almost like on the level of exploitation. There's a lot of nudity and gore, gorgeous women everywhere that are like bodyguards that have like guns and stuff, and Goku is just like, yeah, I'm just rocking this. Absolutely wonderful. I love it to death. Of course, you'd expect no less from Buichi Terasawa, the same man who brought us Space Adventure Cobra. This is Goku is very much similar to Cobra. You know, like replace Psycho Gun arm with telescopic laser pole, and they're essentially the same character, even within the same kind of weird, bizarre sci-fi future that they both inhabit. But in any case, if you really love that kind of over-the-top action, like almost like if Blade Runner were directed by Quentin Tarantino, that's kind of how Goku The Midnight Eye would operate. Really love it a lot. Let's see, next up, Itazura Na Kiss, volumes 8, 9, and 10, which brings me up to date with what's come out so far of Itazura Na Kiss. Again, this shoujo series, it always tops itself in the love and drama kind of angle. Kotoko and Naoki, they just have this perfect kind of dynamic where Kotoko, she's just very loving and sincere, whereas Naoki, he just, because he's just so intelligent, he just sometimes doesn't, like, they never try to purposefully make fun of Naoki. He's always kind of very cool and doesn't really let things bother him or get under his skin. And of course, it's all about Kotoko. It's not really about Naoki himself. But there's just a lot of great back and forth, especially with how Naoki, the way that he feels about Kotoko is that she's so determined, and so when she's trying to do something, she will get it done. And I think that's what Naoki loves about her. And all through the series, you think like, well, if they're married, then obviously he should be trying to help her with her problems and stuff. But no, Naoki sees it as, of course, you're studying to become a nurse. I can't help you in that, because if you can't do it for yourself and make it work, then you need to try to do something else, because I'm not gonna be there all the time for you. And it's kind of this tough love kind of thing that I think I really love about their relationship. Like, there's love, but there's also a deep respect for each other, and I think that makes it a lot more genuine for me, especially in the few instances where, like, in Volume 10, where Kotoko is going to visit her mother's grave with her father, and Naoki decides he should go too to pay respects, and they find out that Kotoko's whole mother's side of her family is a bunch of country bumpkins, as they feel the way Kotoko and her father feel. They're all very country bumpkin, and of course Naoki has no problem with that. He's not at all judgmental or anything. He takes it all in, and it's just there's just such a great dynamic in the way that Kotoko and all of the characters interact with each other. Just, it feels very real and at the same time dynamic. Like, nobody ever feels like they're stuck as that kind of character. Like, there's no character that's like, you're just the comedy relief and you're not allowed to have any sort of personal drama, or you're the cynical one. You're not allowed to feel genuine about anything. They're always changing and evolving as the series progresses, and I think that's one of the greatest strong suits of this series is that essence of it. Alright, next up, Pokemon Diamond and Pearl Platinum, volumes 1 through 11, which, now having read this, I have read all the available Pokemon manga that has come out in English, excluding, of course, the Singapore released Pokemon Adventure volumes that are not done by Viz, or I guess this is Perfect Square as a subsidiary of Viz or something. I don't know, but yeah, I really love this series a lot. It always felt like there was a good balance between the main characters, particularly Diamond and Pearl, who initially they were kind of this comedy duo, but then they accidentally get roped into becoming bodyguards for Platinum while she's on her quest to become to essentially create this sort of rare precious stone that her family, it's sort of a rite of passage for them to always go and do this. But then along the way she decides to then become a Pokemon trainer and actually go through all the gym battles. And that was pretty great. I also liked the dynamic kind of Pokemon teams that they essentially put together with what they Pearl here eventually gets a Luxray, a Tauros. He also had like a Chottle, I think they're called, the little birds. Can't remember. Oh, a Chatot, a little Chatot, and of course his Infernape and Diglett. They're all kind of cool. And the only one I kind of had a problem with was Diamond, who gets a Regigigas on his team, which I felt like that felt very sort of similar to in the Diamond and Pearl manga series, where obviously this main character was the main character, and he also got a Regigigas on his team. Thought that was kind of weird. I did like the fact that Diamond developed a very strong defense kind of team, and Pearl developed a very kind of strong offensive kind of team to really add some dynamic. And then also Platinum, she didn't really get as many Pokemon on her group, which I was kind of disappointed that she never got a full 6 Pokemon roster to fill out, especially because she's supposed to be the the one that's actually doing all the gym battles, and she doesn't get a full six Pokemon team. But at least it's made up for, I guess, because she got Empoleon and Rapidash, and those followed through the rest of the series. It's also interesting that they were even able to balance as many legendary Pokemon as they actually wound up doing. They wrapped up the whole storyline with Giratina and Dialga and Palkia. Then they also somehow were able to tie in the 3 lake legendaries. These little guys, they were able to rope those in. And then the stuff with Seamus, the little grass mystic deer Pokemon thing. They also roped in Shaman, and at one point it felt, and then also another subplot involving Darkrai and Celestius, that one. Just the fact that he was able to do what he did with that many legendaries and still keep it all coherent. The part with Darkrai, that did feel kind of tacked on, because it was kind of like they mentioned briefly there was some stuff going on with an island and people having nightmares, but it never really became a hard focal point of the story. And then it's kind of like at the end, oh yeah, Darkrai, and then they just kind of deal with it very, very kind of quickly, sort of thing. But that aside, it's especially for a Pokemon Adventure series that really has very little direct continuity with the rest of the series. As far as you're not gonna feel too lost if you read this without having read any of the other Pokemon Adventures story arcs. The other ones, like, no, you really need to read the other Pokemon Adventures to understand those story arcs. And I guess that's kind of why they decided, when releasing this series in particular, to just do its own renumbering of 1 through 11, because I guess they thought that it could stand on its own fairly easily. And then finally, one that I've been planning to get for a long time, and with the reprintings of the Omnibuy, I decided to just get them all for myself, not in the omnibus, but Neon Genesis Evangelion Volumes 1 through 14, which is the whole manga series of Neon Genesis. Every anime manga fan around has at least heard of Neon Genesis Evangelion. It's got kind of that reputation of being this kind of high point in the medium, and of course a lot of people are going to contest to that title, but at the very least it was a game changer. It was a big deal for a lot of fans when it was coming out, and especially every time something new comes out about, especially even like the new Neon Genesis Rebuild movies. And all through that, you had the release of these volumes of Neon Genesis by Yoshiyuki Sadamoto, who was the character designer for the anime series. And all through the 90s and up till just last year, he's been very slowly putting out his interpretation of Neon Genesis. Now, of course, the main thing would be how different is it from the main series, and I'm gonna say that the stuff that he changes from the anime are all things that I really like that he changed from the main series. He essentially truncated a lot of stuff that was otherwise filler in the series. Like the first episode where Asuka shows up, and we just have a whole episode of them being on a boat, and then the climax with fighting the angel, and then it's done. And aside from the angel fight, which didn't even really feel that impressive of a fight, it didn't really do a lot of that. Could have been done in a different way. And in here, they almost cut out that whole episode and instead have Asuka just introduced a different way, and it works well. And then there's another episode where very early on, I think it's like episode 3, this other company tries to create their own giant robot that's powered by a nuclear battery, and it goes nuts, and they have to go in and try and disable it. And of course this creates a segue for explaining Mitsuko explaining Katsuragi's backstory and how she became involved with Nerve. And aside from the backstory part, that entire episode was a waste. And of course, again, he cuts out the parts that he doesn't want and puts it somewhere else. And especially the 2 episodes where it's an angel is trying to break in as kind of a computer virus to take over the Magi computer systems. I thought those were kind of the worst episodes. Almost worst episodes for me, because they didn't really do anything except for kind of create a segue for a backstory, which they could have done somewhere else. The worst one was the one where Asuka had to lower herself into the volcano and had to wear like the special kind of suit to not get melted alive by the lava around her and kill the angel inside the volcano. That had to be one of the worst episodes I can remember of the original series. And of course they completely cut that out. As far as whether or not those actually happened or not, as far as canon, I'm going to say that they probably did, because they keep the numberings the same, but they don't have a particular chapter of going through and dispatching every single angel in that series. So I'm just assuming that they happened, but they're just saying, well, we skipped it. You can say that, yeah, we were fighting other angels, but they weren't as noteworthy in the series. The only times that it felt like I thought the anime did it better was the angel that bombards Asuka's mind and just completely fries her brain. That one, of course, I thought they did it better in the anime, because you had the Ode to Joy playing, and it just feels very sort of it just has this kind of gravitas to it that you can't really transition that well into a manga form. But I thought the way he did it was at least a different kind of take, so it's at least something else to look at. I also thought that a lot of the characters were done better, especially Shinji. I thought Shinji was a much more relatable, and I got to understand a lot more of what was going on with him in this series than in the anime, especially near the end, where of course there was a lot of navel gazing in a lot of the later half, which thank God there's very little of that in here. Or I guess in essence you could say that because it's a manga series and you're flipping pages, you can kind of adjust how fast you're going through it, whereas if you're watching something on a screen, you're only going as fast as that story is going. It's a set time period. Like if it's a 96-minute movie, you're sitting there for 96 minutes. You're not flipping ahead. It's not like saying, oh, this guy can watch movies faster than me. No, everybody watches movies at the exact same pace. People read faster than others. So that can be a different sort of experience there. And also at the end of every volume, at least until I think at volume 12 they change it. There's like a different after volume 12, after volume 13, 14, they don't have them in them, but volumes 1 through 12, Carl Horn does these very long sort of essays at the end of every volume that are in some ways related to Evangelion or something Evangelion related, like talking about a particular character or a particular experience he had watching the series at a particular point in this storyline, or pointing out various kind of details or something, or revealing something Evangelion related and really talking in detail about that. So if you're one of those guys that really likes the extra bits that go into a lot of people's fandom, and at least get an interesting new take or interpretation of something that you might not have thought of before, also definitely pick up this series for that. I'm fairly certain they have the same ones reprinted in the 3-in-1 omnibus editions, but I have yet to see them do a collected for volumes 13 and 14. They only have 4 3-in-1s going up to volume 12. So I'll be interested to see what they do for volumes 13 and 14 if they get around to releasing those. Because I know they haven't yet, and they were doing pretty well for the other volumes, so I don't know why they decided to just kind of stop or what. I guess maybe they thought it was going to be 15 volumes, and then they have 5 perfectly paced volumes to put out. I don't know. Same thing happened with Dance in the Vampire Bund when they were releasing their 3-in-1s. They get up to volume 12, and then they find out, oh yeah, Dance in the Vampire Bund only went up to volume 14 of the regular series. We don't have enough to make another 3-in-1. So that's another one where they kind of, I guess, drop the ball and don't feel like putting out a kind of wimpy volume to kind of finish it out. But that's all I got for this month. It felt like I really got a lot of manga reading done this month. Let's see what next month gets us. All right, later.